Hello, everyone, and welcome to Without Having Kicked a Ball. He might be cute to some, but he's not feeling cute right now. David Coote, the referee, has landed himself in a big spot of bother. We'll be looking at how the referee's derogatory comments towards Liverpool may affect his whole career, as well as the whole refereeing fraternity. We will look at how a damaged and fractured relationship between fans and refs and players and managers is always bubbling under the surface. What does the future hold for Coote? And is his career over before it's really got started? Also, tonight we will be looking at all our Premier League games and giving you the scores, as well as our free feature games. There were some exciting games over the weekend and some surprise results, as well as the first wins of the season for Wolves and Ipswich. Here to discuss tonight's games, as well as all the EFL roundup scores, as we always do, it's JLI Wheels.
Yeah, hello, mate. Looking forward to going through everything. Plenty to dissect in the love of my life, the EFL. What does post Mark Robins Coventry look like? The end of the fantastic run for Port Vale in League Two, and Birmingham get affected by the Brady bunch. It's not their own. It's John Brady's Northampton.
Yes, all to discuss, and I'm really looking forward to this week's show. Unfortunately, there is just us two tonight. That hamstring is still playing up. It's been re-ruptured, so Mr. Ben Carney cannot make it tonight, but we hope to have him back very soon. And as for TubeMix, well, we are on his channel and he's in the background, but he's not feeling very well tonight. So it is us taking you through it, me and JLI Wheels. So yeah, without further ado, and we do hope you get better soon, TubeMix, we will start with the show. And there's only one place to start, really. It is the man with the whistle, or should I say, the man who had the whistle, David Coote, who has been, it came to light yesterday, a video emerged during COVID, whilst the games were being played in lockdown, of derogatory comments towards Liverpool from David Coote, filmed by a friend, where he stated his dislike and distaste for Liverpool and how he hated them and hated refereeing them, and said some pretty unsavoury things about Klopp as well. Now, it's important to stress that this is all under investigation and that Coote has not been found guilty of any wrongdoing. But if you've seen the video, which I have, it doesn't look good. And we know in today's day and age, obviously, there's lots of videos that go around, so you have to be careful what you say, because otherwise it might just come back and bite you. We'll start there then. Your initial reaction, and I grant you that things are still coming out all the time, as this is a developing story, George. But yeah, your views on David Coote has been a bit of a silly boy, hasn't he?
Yeah. First of all, I think, have you seen the uncensored version of the video?
Not the uncensored.
No, I mean I've only seen the censored one as well, and it's a lot. It's very blurred out, but I can't imagine it's very nice. I think I could quite make out what he said about Liverpool in general, but I couldn't make out. I'm not that good of a lip reader that I know what he said about Jurgen Klopp. But yeah, it's one of those things. Look, in the modern day with social media, like, if you are somebody that's in the public eye, or I wouldn't necessarily say that refs are famous, but I would say that they are in the public eye. You've got to be careful, and there's always, you can't leave yourself with opportunities to be shot at as such. It's probably the first time that's ever happened where a currently referee has been caught saying something like this, unless I'm incorrect.
I can't think of anything, but if anybody can, when they watch this recording back, then please feel free to put us.
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen the video, it is definitely him. And I think that PGMOL have whatever information PGMOL have got. They were told that the video is 100% genuine, so it's not one of those AI jobbies and the sort of thing that you see nowadays. And I think the fact that they're investigating it probably means that David Coote's on his way out. I think it's a shame. I think he's a very solid referee. He's one of the better ones in my opinion. But you just can't get caught saying anything nowadays.
No.
And that's the sad reality of football and social media and I'm going to say showbiz and sport, because they are kind of interlinked in the social media era.
Well, in the anybody in the public eye, really, isn't it? If you put something out there or anybody, even if you're not in the public eye, but especially if you are and you're a referee and you're making a direct link to your distaste to certain players or certain managers or clubs, it doesn't leave a very good image. But yeah, and also I think the guy who shared the video, because I don't know what you thought about it, but it looked like he was egging David Coote on a bit.
Yeah, but also I imagine that the guy that it was probably his friend, because he looked relaxed enough to at least say it, even with a camera in his face. And you would think most people wouldn't make that error of judgment to somebody that they didn't trust. But I don't necessarily understand what's gone on there, but I don't think we'll ever find that out.
I don't know. I think, it could be what I was thinking, that this guy is one of David Coote's friends, who he obviously trusted to do the video. And you're right, he wasn't like, get the camera out of my face, I don't want to do this. He was quite relaxed. But I just wonder if now David Coote and that friend have fallen out and his friend's gone, I can get back at him by sharing this video. Which you'd like to think would never happen, and we have to stress again that I'm only speculating. There is nothing to say that David Coote has fallen out with his friend, and it was a point of retaliation by him to land David Coote in bother, but we just don't know. But yeah, it's sad, because like George said, he's a solid ref. Should that mean the end of his career, do you think, or should he be? We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes.
I'm trying to think of refereeing controversies. The only one I can think is Graham Poll. Didn't he? I can't quite remember the details, but something to do with Chelsea. It's the one where it's the clip that you've probably seen before, where Drogba's at the camera after the game going, "It's a fucking disgrace! It's a fucking disgrace."
Yeah.
That one. And Graham Poll never refereed a game after that.
Yeah.
So, because it's a personal video, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you don't. The context could be that they were just talking about it, but it could also be that he was sort of trying to set him up a bit. You don't know what the context is. I think it's very, very likely that he will not referee in the Premier League again. Maybe in the EFL. You don't know.
So should that be the end of his career? That one as in the top level of referee. Well, not even that. Should that be the end of his professional career? Because we see, just to say, and just to balance it out, we see players putting stuff out there all the time that he could say, you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't say that. And we do have,
you know what the response to that would be, don't you? You know what the thing to that would be. Well, referees are supposed to be impartial. They're not supposed to give their opinions. And that, it's true, but like, it's so difficult because, personally, I like it. I like it. I like that he's come out and he said what's in the video, but from a guy point of view, as in, like, I think that's funny. Like, as a guy, he seems like he can obviously have a laugh and, like, but from a professional point of view, like, for instance, in my workplace, if a video came out of me slagging off things that I had to work with every day, and I had to be impartial over, and I'm sat there saying, "Oh, this is shit. This is, they're effing shit. Jurgen Klopp's an absolute whatever got said about Jurgen Klopp." I can see why that would be a problem.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think, like, you've got to look at it from the standpoint of PGMOL, because that's out there and that's public knowledge for the public to see. He will never ever be looked at if he was refereeing a Liverpool game and say, yeah, he refereed that fairly. It'll be, well, he's not going to referee fairly. He thinks we're fucking shit.
Or maybe any game, and it brings.
Oh yeah, and then that also begs the question of, well, if he thinks that about that club, what do you think about Chelsea or United? So it's a really, really interesting debate, and obviously he refereed Liverpool Villa this week, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and they won, and I felt like the referee, well, to be honest, getting into the we'll get into the roundup of the games. That's not one of the ones we're going to be focusing on. But for me, I think he probably should have sent off an Aston Villa player, and he actually let the game go, and Liverpool scored from it. Because in that, so I don't know. It's really difficult while it's developing. I'm sure you're going to learn a lot more about it.
Yeah.
I think it's just really unfortunate that that's come out, because that's probably jeopardised his Premier League refereeing career.
And his whole career in general.
Yeah, I, like you said, and possibly even his career in general, because it could be, because obviously referees do have to say who they support. Could be that he supports a team in the EFL, and he might have similar views about some teams in the EFL. So it could completely wreck his career. It shouldn't, but it has the potential to, for sure.
I think what's important to remember, so the basic facts for me. In fact, before I say that, the other referee I can think of at the centre of controversy, and it's just come to me, was the lad that refereed the Spain-England final. Or the semi. No, it was the semi-final in the Euros against Holland. The guy that had been done for match fixing, the referee.
Oh, the Argentina-Netherlands guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the World Cup.
No. So there's a guy in the Euros, the referee we had in the Euros in the semi-final with with Holland against Holland, in the semi-final of the Euros.
Yeah, how can you forget?
That ref had been banned for match fixing at some point.
Okay, fair enough.
And he had served his ban and was allowed to then continue. So, and again, if anybody can think of any more, then please let us know. But and get involved with the debate. I think it's very, very difficult, this one. One, because we don't know all the facts. So, what surrounded that video, what prompted this video to be done, Coote's involvement in setting up of the video. The other thing is, he looked like he'd had a few drinks to me. Not that makes an excuse, but did it look that way to you?
Me as well, by the way. Me as well.
He definitely, by the way he was speaking, it was quite slurred. He'd obviously had a few drinks, and it was quite obvious to me that he was under the influence of alcohol. So yeah, I'm not saying that lets him off. It's an observation. But on to the matter itself. This guy is a human being, yeah? So he is a human being with a livelihood. He'll get paid well, but isn't, not paid anywhere near like footballers. I'm sure he's quite well off. But he's a human being who's made an error, and his friends sort of put him in the shit. Now, he could say, don't do a video like that. And you'd be right to say that, because if you're a public figure and that gets out, once somebody has access to that, no matter who it is, once somebody, and I trust you with my life generally, but if, I genuinely do trust you with everything. If you let a video like that circulate and somebody gets hold of it, whether it was his friend that actually sent it or he passed it on to somebody else and they sent it, once that goes to somebody else on somebody else's phone, it's out of your hands. And that's the scary thing about social media. It's probably innocent. It was 4 years ago, and David Coote's probably forgotten all about it. That video, and then it's somehow been recirculated through a friend or him passing it on to somebody else. We again speculate. We don't know. It was his friend that posted the video for sure. It might have been somebody else, but it's if you put something like that out, especially when you're in the public domain or anything that could be seen as very controversial and put you in the spotlight, you have to be very careful. And David Coote hasn't been careful, because as soon as that leaves his phone, it's in somebody else's hands. But the other thing is, we've had players, we've had footballers betting and taking drugs, and sports people in general taking performance-enhancing drugs or stuff like that have been, banned for a period of time and then let back. Is there a danger that because David Coote's a referee and I'm not saying nobody likes referees, but it's a hard job and they get a lot of stick naturally from fans and stuff. Is there a danger that because he's a referee, that's why it could be impossible? We could make it impossible for him to come back.
Yeah, and I think the thing is as well is like it's the relationship with the players as well which gets affected, because can a referee really, let's say that he calls a foul and then the ref gives him a bit and he says, oh, what, are you going to post a video about this, for example? Can he really justify booking a player for dissent for that? I mean, you probably would, but it's a bit, to use a phrase that we use a lot, it's a bit shithousey, isn't it? Like, to do that. And there's so much of a, I don't know. There's so much kind of muddy water that I do think it makes it difficult for him to referee in some instances, because I feel like that loss of respect and authority is there. Now, at the same time, should they be upheld to the same standards as players? Kind of. Like, on the pitch, yeah, they're the authority. But that's a personal video, which I'm guessing was never meant to see the light of day. I don't know. It's really difficult. It's a really difficult one. But I think that, to be honest, we've covered it pretty well.
We have.
So
From
I
what
think
from what we know so far, we've covered it very well, and it might be, depending on what happens to David Coote, and if TubeMix will let us, that we come back to that, and pending the investigation and the outcome, we can have another chat about this as it all unfolds. To our Premiership games, and I think a good place to start is it finished at the Amex, Brighton 2, Manchester City 1. Erling Haaland putting Manchester City into the lead. Who else? Before João Pedro's equaliser, and Matt O'Reilly on his first appearance, I believe, in the Prem.
Yeah, great story.
Scoring after injury, the winner. City feeling the blues again. But they are human after all. What was your takeaway from the game, Jordan?
Listen, I think the match of the day commentator was Steve Wilson, and he said that injuries were corrosive for Man City, and I think that Rodri and De Bruyne are the two best midfielders in the league. I don't necessarily think that Man City have missed De Bruyne as much as they had Rodri. There was so much conversation about Rodri getting the Ballon d'Or over Vinicius Junior, and I know that it's not the best week to bring it up, considering that if Vinicius Junior wasn't on the pitch, Real Madrid would have drawn, and because Vinicius Junior got a hat trick. But for me, Rodri, like, you look at City without Rodri, and there is space to exploit. Whereas with Rodri, there's no inch for City with Rodri on the field. I really like that Brighton took the game to City. They didn't pay them too much respect. It was something that we had talked about last week when we went to we were at an FA Cup match. We talked about how there was too much respect being given between the teams, and that's why it was kind of a lower quality game. And that's what a lot of teams come to City and do. They allow City to play the natural game, and that then means that City can suffocate. It's got to be mentioned, Haaland, 75 Premier League goals in 77 Premier League games, just continues to be the most lethal striker that we have ever seen in our era. And, a decent finish. And the change, by the way, was an absolute belter of a change to bring on João Pedro. Comes on, scores the goal, and also sets up Matt O'Reilly's winning goal, which is a great story. I was actually watching the Carabao Cup match. Obviously, we don't have the blackout for the cup matches and midweek matches and blah, blah, blah anymore. So I actually watched the cup match where Matt O'Reilly came off. To be honest, as far as I remember, it was an ACL. I'm quite surprised to see him back so soon.
Yeah, I don't think it was an ACL, but I think it was his knee.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a really, really bad one. Like months, way longer than it has been. Anyway,
to be honest, I didn't, sorry to cut in, but I didn't know he was going to, until I watched the highlights, I didn't actually see the game. because I had family commitments. But until I watched the highlights, and I had to watch that Brighton winning goal a couple of times because I was like, "Who's that?" And then I realised it's Matt O'Reilly, and I was like, I didn't even know he was on the comeback trail, let alone coming back.
Yeah, it's
Anyway.
not just that as well. I don't think they made a huge deal of it either on the match of the day highlights. You know, like usually somebody makes a substitution and it's the guy that scores the winning goal. Like
Yeah.
that would be made it. I don't think they even did that on match of the day unless I
They
just completely.
probably show you the substitution, don't they? If something
Yeah,
meaningful.
like they did with they did in the they did it in the Liverpool game because Connor Bradley came on and there was some ref controversy to do with him, which I'm sure we might get to later on. But yeah, no, great win for Brighton. 4 losses in a row for the first time since 2006 for Man City. Pep Guardiola just looked very, very annoyed. The one thing that I actually think that, and this might be a controversial, I think City losing the league this year might convince Pep to stay. I think if they go and win it, there's a high chance that's disregarding the 115 and all that, 115 whatever. I think if City lose the league, I think it maybe stokes the fire in Pep to stay. I think if they win it comfortably, like it looked like they were going to, it's more of a chance to leave.
One thing I would say is never write off City. They're capable of going from
No,
now to the
listen, they're still going to win the league.
they're capable of going from now to the end of the season without losing a game. So
As good as Liverpool are, they do drop a clanger every now and again. That's why I remember really drilling into to Brighton and how well they've done was when they beat Man United 2-1, which also had a João Pedro winning goal. Obviously, João Pedro has been out for a long time, and
I do.
he
I think
he
policy.
yeah he's the focal point for that team. I think what Brighton have gotten. I think we talked about this before when we mentioned the likes of Welbeck. Guys like Milner as well, Lewis Dunk, Joel Veltman. They've got this great blend of experienced Premier League campaigners and genuine quality and flair. Um,
And youth
yeah,
still.
and they've also always had that. I also want to mention because I think he's brilliant, and I sometimes feel like the kind of weird rotation that Brighton had been doing up to that point didn't really highlight him a lot. But Bart Verbruggen is a fabulous goalkeeper. And it's funny that we were talking about Holland versus England in the Euros because that's the first time where I really looked at him and thought, well, he is a class goalkeeper, and he's only sort of 2021.
I do like Jason Steele though.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with Brighton, and I think we talked about this maybe personally. I don't know whether we talked about this on this show, but it's very difficult when you've got 2 quality sort of goalkeepers. But it's weird in Brighton's case, and I think Wolves is the same. I don't think there's much to separate Verbruggen and Steele, just as I don't think there's much to separate Sarr and Johnson.
I think
Sorry.
Steele's better with his feet, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think Verbruggen can play himself into trouble with his passing sometimes. But yeah, it's a great result for Brighton. I don't know what's next for City because I don't really think that Pep will change things up. You know what he's like? He doesn't make
Stubborn.
drastic decisions. So I think it'll be more of the same for City. But they definitely don't look themselves at all.
Just finally on that as well, and some great points there. We talk about you just mentioned Man United there, and we spoke about a lot of them on the show, so I'm not going to do it. But Brighton are such a well-run club. it's like, and I know it's a cliche, and we keep saying it, and we say it about Leicester, we have in the past. We say about, about clubs in the EFL, but Brighton are just such an amazingly run club. The concession plans they have in place, the data for players, the depth they go into to find the coaches, is deeper than anybody. What other club would have appointed Fabian Hürzeler, at his age and his level of inexperience? Although he obviously had managed, and they just do it time and time again, and the same with the players. All right, at the minute they haven't got. I don't. Maybe João Pedro in that category, but I don't. They haven't got maybe that standout players like Caicedo and McAllister. Who could get poached and did get poached, but they have an outstanding team. They really do.
Much more balanced, less about star performers, more about a full 11, 18 of great players.
Yeah, and I think it's great. You've seen young Hinchwood come through there, who is the fourth generation of Brighton, of his family to play for Brighton, which I find an amazing stat. And I think it's the fourth generation in a row. I will have to check that, but I know it's the fourth generation.
As far as I know, that's right.
And yeah, and good to see Evan. You're saying about rotation and Mark Verbruggen and Jason Steele. It's also nice to see Evan Ferguson getting a few minutes again. I know he had his injuries last season, but he is quality, and I just hope he gets a chance to show it.
Yeah, agree. On to the next one.
Moving on. So, moving on, and there's only one other place to go into the second game, and that is Tottenham Hotspur 1, Ipswich Town 2. Ipswich with their very first win. Congratulations, since they've been back to the top tier. Goals from Sammy Smodics, who signed from Blackburn at the end of the last transfer window, and Liam Delap. And what turned out to be a consolation goal by Rodrigo Bentancur, as Spurs failed to complete the comeback. Spurs 2 steps forward, 3 steps forward, and 4 steps back. It just seems to be the way Tottenham are. But a brilliant result for Ipswich. Really pleased for them. It goes getting to that stage for them and Wolves, who we'll come on to in a minute, win the roundup. But where you thought, where's that win coming from? And lo and behold, probably not to each other's delight because they're near each other in the table. They both win.
Yeah, I'm actually going to flip this and ask you a question first. We talked a lot while you were away for a while about Liam Delap and how much we enjoyed Liam Delap. What's your thoughts on him?
My thoughts on Liam Delap is that his dad was a great player. No, he was great throws. For those of you that haven't watched Rory Delap throw a ball for Stoke, go and look at it. It's well worth a watch. But on to Liam. Obviously, his dad was a winger. He's a striker. Liam, and good English player. A young player. I think he's still got a lot to learn. I don't by any means think he's anywhere near. I think he might be, and this is going to be controversial. I'm not going to say he's not going to be a great player. I think he has the potential to be. But I do sometimes think the way people talk about him is slightly overrated. There's in terms of right now being slightly overrated.
I'm shocked by that. So shocked.
think he's got all the attributes. He's got everything to make him into a top footballer, but he's not there yet. And I know he had Haaland ahead of him, but there's a reason also why he left Man City for Ipswich. Maybe less so if he'd have left Man City for a Chelsea or an Arsenal or a Tottenham. But, there's a reason for that, and it's because he needed more game time and is not ready for one of the big clubs yet. Having said that, I really like him. I think he's a strong physical striker. I think he is technically very good, can head a ball, can finish, can do everything you'd want. But there's a lot of growth in him, and that's exciting. There's a lot of growth. If he was a finished article at 21, I'd be a bit disappointed. Because although he'd be a generational talent, you'd think, well, this guy has already reached possibly a ceiling, albeit a very high ceiling. But there's so much more to come from Liam Delap. There's so much more in there. But I just think at the minute, people big him up too much, more for his own sake. Like, give the lad time to grow and develop and to enjoy his football. And then in 2 years' time, then we can start to say, is this guy going to be the next big thing? But, when he hits around 23, 24, but he's not there yet. So let the lad play football, let him score goals, let him get used to playing at the top level week in, week out for a year and see how he does.
We're about to do something that we don't do very often with football opinions and completely disagree. I think that a player like him who is raw and does kind of shoot from all these strange angles and has a go from distance and is quite physical and loves a battle, and he's not the finished article. You're right, he does miss chances, but I think it's a complete breath of fresh air. Now, talking about being overrated, I've heard a lot of people say a lot of good stuff about him. We've said a lot of good stuff about him. But his goal record isn't amazing. But in terms of how much Ipswich actually create and what they create that's meaningful, I think his output is decent. That being said, I think that if they are to get relegated, which I still think they will, despite a great win against a really Spursy Spurs side, I think he'd probably be the first to go, and I think he would go up. I think he would go to a sort of a mid-table team. Listen, and as well, we've got to mention Sammy Smodic's overhead kick.
Yeah,
just a great goal. Spurs, we've talked about a lot. It's really difficult to place what the issue is with Spurs because they knock on the door and they knock on the door and they just can't get in. They just can't score. They're really inconsistent. We don't necessarily talk about Europe, but here's one for you. They lost to Galatasaray in the Europa League. They had the young lad Will Lancashire, his first start for the club, scores a goal but goes off with 2 yellows. With the league format in Europe, you would think that they would take it a bit more seriously. Not saying that they didn't, but Spurs are flattered to deceive in Europe despite doing pretty well anyway, in my opinion. Anyway, that's irrelevant to this. I just can't pinpoint what it is with Spurs. And I'm a massive fan of Big Ange, but I also think that it's pretty clear that like a lot of the stuff that made him a breath of fresh air at the beginning is kind of the stuff that's wearing thin with people. It just doesn't. It's just not working. It's not working, and I like that he's still there because given what Spurs. Well, actually, Spurs are one of the ones that are. Let's scratch that because Spurs are actually one of the teams that are all right for keeping older managers. But it's definitely not working at the minute for sure. I mean, I don't know what your Spurs opinions are. Like I said, well, I've not been here the last 2 weeks. You might have talked about Spurs, and given your opinions, but I'm just interested in what you think.
I think it's really tough because I really like Ange. There's certain managers on a Friday, which is when most press conferences are done for the weekend's matches, and I watch their press conferences. Call me sad if you want, but I do. And he's one of them. I listen to the Brighton manager a lot. And funnily enough, I listen to Russell Martin a lot because I kind of like the things he says. Even though Southampton make a lot of mistakes, I think.
Martin's very honest. For a guy that continues to make the same mistakes in every single Premier League game, he's very, very honest.
He is. I quite like that. Anyway, I like Ange. I actually think Ange does have a winning mentality. And I say that because this is going to sound weird, but I'm not sure Mourinho and Conte had a winning mentality when they came into Spurs. As in, they were winning managers with winning mentalities, obviously, but when they came into what I'm saying is, and then that contradicts, but what I'm saying is with Spurs, they kind of gave up. They were like, oh, there's too much to do. There's culture of the club. The players aren't winners. So I'm going to whinge about it and moan. And with Angie's like, no, this is where we are in the process. It's going to take this to get to it. And he doesn't moan, doesn't whinge about what he doesn't have. I think he's been slightly silly going on about what he did. He always wins in the second season because it's all very well saying he wins in the second season with Celtic and Australia when he's manager of them and wherever else he's been, he's done that. But I think it just puts pressure on him. I really do. Because if he doesn't win anything this season, and he might do, it'd be typical of Spurs under Ange to go and win a League Cup and stuff. I could see them doing that or winning the Europa League or certainly obviously the FA Cup's not started yet. So for those Premier League and Championship sides, so yeah, I could see him doing that. But I just think Spurs have a shot like they do every year. And I like Ange. I think he's, again, honest. He's quite, he never gets too high or too low, which I like in a manager. You look at Conte and his antics at Spurs when he was like ranting in the press conference. I get he's angry and he's a winner, and I see that in myself, but I like Ange. He's very calm to camera. Sometimes a bit less brazen, but I quite like it. But but at the end of the day, it's style or substance. And unfortunately, we live in an era where people want both.
I think the thing is though. I think the thing is that they have the style, and that's the frustrating thing. They've got the style, but they don't seem to have the substance.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
But that's what I can't quite figure out because you look at the sort of the goals they concede and I don't ever feel like they're always within a game, aren't they? They're always in games.
Yeah.
And that's what's really, really strange. For my personal opinion is that the Big Ange tenure is starting to go a little stale.
I think he might just turn it around and I put my neck on the line.
Okay.
I just think I'm not saying he'll win anything this season, but I just think Spurs are so close. You know, like when you went towards the middle and the end of Conte's reign and Mourinho's reign, you could see it was only going one way. Eventually, as good as those managers are, and they've won everything there is to win between them. multiple times, World Cups or the Euros, but in club management, I just feel Andrew's got something in him to turn it around. I think maybe Guardiola is stubborn, but he is a genius. So he's got the best players in the world, arguably. Real Madrid fans, I'm sorry, but you could toss a coin between maybe the two clubs in the world in terms of team. And Ange hasn't got that. So maybe the one big issue with Ange Postecoglou is that he's just so stubborn, and the players can play the way he wants them to, but maybe he just doesn't tweak things tactically. And that stubbornness might be his downfall. And I really hope it's not. I don't know, but I really hope it's not, because it's the first manager Spurs have had, and I have a lot of time for Spurs, and they won't like that. The Chelsea fan, but I really think that this is the first time since Pochettino, Spurs have got their Tottenham back. As in, Tottenham play football the Tottenham way. But that will only get so far. And we live in an era where clubs need style and substance, and it's a really hard balance. But yeah, so I would stick with Ange until the end of the season. It was me, unless I get dragged into a relationship we can't see, but I would stick with him till the end of the season whenever I could. But yeah, I like him.
Yeah. I'm just a little bit conscious of time, so I'm gonna move us on to our last game, which was the Sunday game, and it was Forest versus Newcastle. Forest, I think I remember it might have been the international break one that we did, where I talked a lot about Forest, and I've been waiting for a moment to talk about Forest, and obviously I've not been available the last few weeks. And this isn't necessarily the best circumstance. I mean, they were 1-0 up, through a goal from Murillo, and then a Joe Linton inspired Newcastle came roaring back in the second half. Isak, Joe Linton, and Harvey Barnes the goals to give some sort of, because I think it's been a bit of a weird season for Newcastle. Started well, weren't doing so well, got that win against Arsenal, and haven't really looked back since. And I think that one of the things that we haven't really done at all, if I can remember right this season, maybe TubeMix, once he's better, can probably tell me different, but I don't think we've spoken about Newcastle positively at all this season, apart from maybe the obvious the Newcastle Arsenal game, which I don't think I was there for. So this is my opportunity to give Newcastle some flowers, really, because the first sort of half an hour of the game, well, even to the first half, it's very cut and thrust, but you can see the reason that Forest are where they are. They're so positive and so hungry for the ball, and it was a great delivery from Alanga into Murillo, the kind of goal from a set piece that we don't see anymore. It was quite a throwback. It felt like a 2007 kind of goal.
There's nothing with throwbacks, if that works here. Chris Wood's a bit of a throwback, but he's certainly a top player.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then, I think Newcastle have a great team, but something hasn't clicked. And I do think that one of the problems with Newcastle is that a lot of those players are confidence players. Somebody like Joelinton if when he's on form, when he's on song, is a great Premier League player. Human Rice the same, Isak the same. Guys like Dan Burn, Nick Pope is really good when he's got a bit of confidence going.
Gordon.
Well, he's a great example of that as well. So I hope that this is the start of them moving back up the table. And I don't think that this is also the start of Forest going down it. I just think that Newcastle were able to muster up a great performance in the second half. And I don't think that there's much for Forest to be particularly worried about. Obviously, they have the player and the manager of the month for this month with Chris Wood and Nuno getting the nods. It's an unbelievable job that he's done that we haven't really highlighted too much. But yeah, I'll hand back over to Sam to give his opinion. I just wanted to give Newcastle their flowers a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting you there. I was just saying last month they got the award for at the start of this month, if that makes sense, for the manager and the player of October. But yeah, Forest, I mean, you can only wax lyrical about them really, which we don't normally do on a loss, but they've had a brilliant start to the season. I've always liked Nuno. He's quietly spoken, but he's got a fire behind him. But Forest have been playing some wonderful attacking football. All right, they might lump it long occasionally. They can mix it up a little bit like Brentford can. And it's nice to see attacking football under Nuno. I didn't think he had that in him, but he's obviously looked at the players and I see him as a bit of a David Moyes type, really. Because I think David Moyes is more attacking than people realise. You only look at West Ham and what's happened with Julian Lopetegui, who I will get onto that later, but as Jordan...
You just hate that guy. That's your problem.
Well, I'm being proven right so far, aren't I, about his...
It's pretty attritional, isn't it?
But yeah, I'm not a fan at all, and I think I'm being proven right. Anyway, Nuno, brilliant. Forest, really enjoy watching them. Some great players. I did, even though they've got some good players, think they might be in a relegation battle. They might still get into a relegation battle, and you laugh at me for saying that, but it can turn very quickly. Football's fine margins, but I tell you what, they've given themselves first 11 games a big platform to build on, so that when that real dip does come, and whether that'll be now after Newcastle, who knows? But even if they lose a few, they've got points in the bag, and they've been really good to watch. And looking at their players, the body language, they all look happy. And Nuno spoke about, again, he's one of the managers I watched at press conferences of, Nuno Espirito Santo, is that he talks about the camaraderie that the players have got. And I think that's something Nuno's good at. He was the same at Wolves. They were very close-knit, his staff, his players, and that's what got Wolves into a European place. Ultimately, as talented as they were, mixed with the talent, but more to do with the teamwork and stuff, and being there for each other, because I think there were more talented teams that missed out on Europe than Wolves in those 2 seasons. So really good to see Nuno doing well. I'm pleased for him. I never felt like Tottenham was the right fit, but I think certain managers go with a certain type of club, and Forest right now is the right fit for Nuno and the owner Marinakis. We did touch on last week the shock departure of Edu from Arsenal after being the sporting director. So it'll be interesting, and rumours are that he's going to have some role with Marinakis, whether it be at Olympiacos or Forest or some other capacity. So we'll see about that. But as for Forest, really like them. And I had them tipped in my bottom three. And based on this evidence...
Me as well.
Like I said, you never know. So, they could lose 12 games on the run and we'd be going either back down there, but they're giving themselves a hell of a chance. And as for Newcastle, I sort of feel that Eddie Howe is in a bit of a similar position to Ange Postecoglou, where there's a lot of expectation and sort of 4 steps forward, 3 steps back. It's worth saying that Eddie Howe had to bring Newcastle, regardless of the money that they were able to inject in the club and players and stadium and whatever else, facilities. He's had to bring Newcastle right from the bottom upwards. So I think he's done a wonderful job. I hope he gets the time. Luckily, the owners seem quite patient. There could have been owners that let him go at the end of last season, which I think that would have been mad. But having not got in Europe and with Newcastle's new-founded ambition, so well done to Newcastle. Like Jordan said, when they're on song, a really tough team to play against. We've said it before on this show. Joe Linton is just transformed. I've never seen a player transform like him from striker to box midfielder. And I love watching him, and I love stories like that. Anyway, brilliant, and for Newcastle, brilliant position for Forest, and I look forward to seeing how both teams and managers get on.
Yeah, I just like that it was one last thing, and then I'll go ahead and I will round up the rest of the Premier League results. I just want to say that I like that it just felt like 2 teams going for it, and it didn't it's early enough in the season that these 2 teams could trade positions, but it also felt like there wasn't that much stakes in it, even though there probably is, because Forest are fighting to stay where they are. Like, on the face of it, it is a bit of a false position, but I just liked that it was 2 teams that just went for it, and I really appreciate that. But let's go ahead now and do the rest of the Premier League, starting with Brentford versus Bournemouth. Now, this game follows the trend of Brentford games and was a bit nuts. It was, first of all, 1-0 to Bournemouth through Eva Nielsen before Wisser got the equaliser on the 27th minute. Justin Kluivert, player I like a lot, got the second goal for Bournemouth on the 49th, before 2 goals in 8 minutes from Brentford turned the game around. One in the 50th minute from Damsgaard, great finish, and a second from Visser on 58 for the 3-2 win for Brentford. It was more misery for Palace. They started a little bit of a mini revival. Emile Smith-Rowe, who's been fantastic, with the first goal in the 2nd minute of added on time in the first half. And then Harry Wilson, the super sub, with a goal in the 83rd minute. Daichi Kamada sent off on that one, in that one as well, in the 76th minute. Red card for me. Did you see it, Sam? Palace Fulham.
Yes, I did see the red card. I think it was.
Yeah, same for me as well.
I don't like to see players get sent off, but you can't look at him like that.
No, he's clattered him, hasn't he? Yeah. Anyway, your mate Lopetegui masterminded a 0-0 home draw with Everton. Pretty poor, to be honest. That's less said about that one, the better.
Lopetegui, definitely.
Your mate Wolves got their first win of the season at home to the kamikaze team of the Premier League, Southampton. A goal from Pablo Sarabia 2 minutes in, and then Matthias Cunha in the 51st minute with a rocket to secure the points for Wolves. Let's put a pin in that one to come back to when we talk about the rest of the Premier League, because there is something I want to talk about there. The other late game, the 8 o'clock kickoff, was Liverpool versus Aston Villa, refereed by our mate David Coote. The first goal, Darwin Núñez. Now, this is the one where I said Leon Bailey, last man, brings down, I think it was Salah, and David Coote Wade play on. Núñez gets hold of the ball. Great finish. Also, the obligatory Mohamed Salah goal on the 84th minute. Going on to Sunday's games. Man United said goodbye to Ruud van Nistelrooy with a 3-0 home win to Leicester. Goals from
Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Goals from Bruno Fernandes. A pretty good goal, I'll give him that. Victor Christensen, own goal, and Alejandro Garnacho saw Man United move up the table just slightly. And the other...
Whoa.
Yeah, we covered the other two Sunday games, so the only one left is Arsenal versus Chelsea. A goal from Gabriel Martinelli. More Chelsea, mistakes at the back, which is usual. Let Martinelli in with a free header in the 60th minute until Pedro Neto took it upon himself to fire in a goal from outside the box to secure the point for the Blues. And that concludes.
Good to see Pedro Neto, scoring a few more goals. I think that he's got that in him. I always feel watching him, he's a great player, but I always feel there's more in there. You know?
He was class as well. He was really, really good.
I feel like because of his injuries, he's not been able to explode, and I feel like he's a player that could just explode and score like 30 in a season. And I just hope he gets that opportunity now.
Absolutely. That concludes your Premier League results. Let's go into the Championship. Now, the Championship had midweek action going on, and the we would have started. There was a game on Thursday night between West Brom and Burnley, but that counted still as part of the midweek match day. So instead, we're jumping to Friday. To Vicarage Road, where Watford hosted Oxford and got the win thanks to Vakun Bayo. Also on Friday, there was a game between Barnsley and Rotherham. Rotherham, I highlighted in the last international break, and I think we'll go back to it next week when we do our international break state of play episode. Rotherham really not doing very well at all. They were undone here thanks to goals from Johnny Russell and Stephen Humphreys. Okay, moving on to Saturday and the Championship. And we'll start with Blackburn Rovers, who went to Cardiff and got all 3 points. 2 goals from Andy Weinman and a third from Lewis Baker. Put Blackburn in the lead. David Turnbull had a penalty save but stuck away the rebound to get the consolation for Cardiff. Middlesbrough, we've talked about them also recently, and we will again. Very inconsistent, although they did have their shooting boots on against Luton. It was 5-1, 2 from Delano Bergzorg, 1 from Emmanuel Latte. Don't know whether anybody saw it. Took it round the goalkeeper, took it round the defender and slotted in. And 2 goals from Finn Azaz as well, and a consolation for Luton.
There you go, Finn.
Yeah, a consolation for God, put your teeth back in. Consolation for Luton from Jordan Clark.
What was that? Luton, just quickly, they've gone right down.
I don't know. I think it's one that we need to get in depth with next week. Because I need to do some research really, because I can't quite figure it out. I think he's trying to He's definitely changed the style of play. They don't play like they did, but there's a lot of things going on there that are very strange, and I can't quite place it. So I'll do a little bit of research, and we'll pull a pin in that one for next week.
There's your homework. Right,
Yeah.
good.
Stoke and Millwall played out a 1-1 draw. Josh Coburn opened scoring for Millwall before Ben Gibson got his second in a week to share the points. Derby and Plymouth also shared the points. Jerry Yates scored the opener on the 8th minute before Adam Randall got the equaliser in the 41st. Leeds continue on at QPR's expense. A goal from Jayden Bogle and a goal from Joel Peru. So that one out for a 2-0 victory. Norwich were beaten at home for the first time in over a year by Bristol City, who have come on leaps and bounds, and I'm very excited to talk about them next week. Also, goals from Anis Mehmeti, who I've always enjoyed, and Naki Wells, who is one for your Bradford FIFA 13 career modes. I think most of us did when they went and got to the Carabao Cup finals with Hansen and Wells up front. Now this is a story for you. First home win of the season for Portsmouth versus Preston. A goal from Josh Murphy, Connor Ogilvie, and Emil Rees for Preston. The third goal came from a man who had open heart surgery just 3 months ago. Colby Bishop had open heart surgery after a scan in training picked up an issue with his heart. He came on. A lot of the Pompey fans didn't even know he was registered to play. They got special dispensation from the league for him to play. Comes on and slots away the winning penalty. What a story.
Why did he need special dispensation?
Because he hadn't been registered. Like, he wasn't registered. You know, they have like registration windows. He wasn't registered. They didn't think he'd be ready.
But the league let him back in. That's good.
Yeah. And
so congratulations. So they show congratulations to that man. Fantastic.
No, it's an unbelievable story. That's what the EFL is all about. And your final Saturday game for the Championship, still got a few to go on the Sunday, was Sunderland 2, Coventry 2. The Mark Robins era is over, and I just want to bring up two names, well, the two favourites for the Coventry job, who are evens with the bookies, Frank Lampard, and then the second favourite is Robbie Keane, who obviously started his career in the Premier League, at least, with Coventry. I think he was at Wolves before Cov. Let's just go through the goal scorers before we discuss that a little bit. It was Sunderland who raced into a 2-0 lead. Wilson Isidore is a great name for these acrobatic, tidy finishes that he keeps producing, and also the fullback Dennis Sirkin let loose an arrow to be 2-0 up at half time. But Cov came back. Haji Wright and Jack Radoni salvaging a point for them. So what do we think about Frank Lampard potentially being Coventry manager?
Mistake getting rid of Mark Robbins. You've got to be
huge.
Got to be careful what you wish for. They're not that far off, and the man's done wonders with them, taking them up from League Two back to the Championship, on the brink of an FA Cup final. I mean, what more do they want? In a kick away from the Premier League as well. So when they lost to Luton in the playoff final. So what more do they want? So in a way, I hope Coventry really struggle, because I just not nothing against the fans, but just don't think they should have got rid of him. I get sometimes you need a change, but from wonders, the man's like Pep Guardiola for them. I bet the fans were going nuts. Anyway,
I think they're very, very unhappy, the Cov fans, and they're right to be. I just want to say that, like, of any job that I've seen anybody do, maybe Kieran McKenna is the only, Nathan Jones are the only two names I can think that may have done jobs at a similar level or even better than Robbins.
Nigel Atkins.
Don't forget Nigel Atkins, Paul Lambert. But I'm talking of current managers in terms of current jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of Frank Lampard. I think he could do something there. I think that squad is the kind of squad that he would probably do
no
pretty
chance.
well with.
The man's not got a clue when it comes to management. He couldn't manage a herd of sheep.
In terms of Robbie Keane, I think that's a pretty weird choice. I think he's only had one job, and I think that was Maccabi Tel Aviv in Israel.
I'd rather have him than Frank Lampard.
Nah, I think you're silly with that. Anyway, we'll continue on and we'll go to League One. A battle at the bottom saw Burton Albion come away with the points versus Shrewsbury. Kalinauskas, I think that's how you say it, with the opening goal for them. And Danilo Orsi, a man that me and Sam know very well. We saw him score a winner at Wembley. Just to bring it up. To get Burton the win. Sorry to bring that up. Ryan Barnett scored a pretty decent goal to give Wrexham the win against Mansfield as third.
Have you seen it?
The Wrexham goal?
No, it's Barnett.
I haven't seen. Oh, no! I'm not even giving that time of day. Third played fourth in League One. That was shocking. Second place Birmingham saw what some of the teams in League One can do to you when you're at the top. They took the lead through Jay Stansfield in the 58th minute. Then Northampton came back with a 96th minute winner when it was Brady making the difference again for Birmingham, but not their owner Tom Brady. It was Northampton's manager John Brady who continued to pile the pressure on till the last, with Mitch Pinnock getting the equaliser. There was also a 1-1 draw between Bristol Rovers and Lincoln City. Shaq Ford with the goal for Bristol and Jack Moyland with the equaliser for Lincoln. Crawley and Huddersfield played out a 2-2 draw. Goals from Hepburn, Murphy and Anderson for Crawley. Boo. Boo. And also goals from Reece Healy and Hervey Kane for Huddersfield. Exeter continued their fantastic season with a 1-0 win over Nathan Jones's Charlton. Tristan Kramer with the only goal. Leyton Orient upset the odds to beat Blackpool 3-0. Goals from Sonny Perkins, Charlie Kelman and Tom James. And then a local derby saw Peterborough and Cambridge face off. Cambridge absolutely battered despite their recent fantastic form. 6-1 Peterborough, goals from Ricky J. Jones, a hat-trick from Kwame Poku, a penalty from Malik Motherseal, and a goal from Ryan de Havilland, and the consolation goal coming from Sully Kaikai for Cambridge. 1-1 between Stevenage and Reading. Dan Kemp with the opening goal for Stevenage, with Harvey Nibbs with the equaliser for Reading. Stockport County turned over Bolton Wanderers at Edgeley Park 5-0. Will Collar, Kyle Wotton, Fraser Horsfall, Louis Barry and Odin Bailey with the goals. And Wycombe Wanderers continue to do the absolute incredible 1-0 win against Wigan. Takes them to absolutely amazing position of top of the table by 2 points. What a job.
Why is that so amazing?
What a job. I'll tell you why. What a job being done by Matt Bloomfield. This time last year, mid-table in League One. This year, pretty much a very similar profile of squad, just doing some absolutely amazing things. And you just love to see it. So, that concludes League One. Into League Two we go. Harrogate played host to Morecambe and came out 2-1 losers. Reece Williams, remember him, the Liverpool loanee with the goal. that opened the scoring for Morecambe. John Daly got the equaliser for the home side on the 86th minute before Harvey McAdam got the winner in the 96th minute. It was a battle of two sides that are pretty poor. Salford hosting Carlisle. Carlisle got the victory thanks to Ben Barkley. Grimsby were away winners at Wimbledon. Danny Rose with the only goal. Barrow and Colchester played out a 1-1 draw thanks to goals from Elliot Newby for Barrow and Lyle Taylor for Colchester. Also,
for a bit, hasn't he? Lyle Taylor.
Yeah, he's been going for a while, hasn't he? Also, 1-1 draw. Cheltenham versus Bromley. Efron Archer with the opening goal after Carl Jenkinson, remember him?
It was at Arsenal.
Yeah, was sent off for 2 yellow cards.
Why is he so far down? What's happened to him?
I couldn't tell you. I genuinely don't know. I knew that he'd gone there, but I was surprised to see his name as well. Anyway, yeah, they were down to 10 men. They got the equaliser though through Omar Shawumni. A bit of an upset at Chesterfield. Accrington Stanley coming away 3-0 away winners. Goals from Josh Woods, Zach Orr, and Jimmy Knowles. Doncaster and Notts County faced off in a battle of the playoff places, and it was a 1-1 draw. Alassana Jatta with the opener for Notts County, and Joe Ironside with the leveller. Next up for them, the mighty Alex at Cresty Road. Fleetwood got a very good 1-0 victory over Bradford, thanks to a goal from Ronan Coughlin on the 8th minute. Port Vale's fantastic winning run was cut short thanks to a goal from Gillingham's Jaden Clark. That's 1-0 to them.
Take that. Boo.
Ian Holloway's first match back as a league manager with Swindon started off fantastically with Harry Smith getting the goal after 18 seconds. They weren't able to hold on though. Thompson Sommers, MJ Williams, and Alex Gilby with goals to give MK the win.
Great to see him back, a great character and somebody I've met.
No, completely agree. I haven't met him though, but I do think he's a great guy.
He was great with me.
Yeah, I remember that story. Tranmere got the victory over Newport County. Connor Jennings and Kieran Morris with the goals for them. Before Kyle Hudlin got the a goal for Newport to put the pressure on, although they did have a man sent off. The 2 yellows, thanks to, and that is Kyle Jameson. Walsall hosted the mighty Alex at the Poundland Bescott Stadium, and the Alex took the lead. Matas Holacek with the ball of his life to Omar Bogle, who got his first for the Alex and his first for over a year. But it was Walsall that had the last say. Stoke Loney, Nathan Lowe is some player, and it was some finish past Philip Marshall to get the points.
Take a point.
To take a point for the Saddlers. Now, going into Sunday, we've got 3 here, and then we're done. The Steel City Derby was played out on Sunday, and the difference maker was Tyrese Campbell. He really has found some form in the last few weeks. Sheffield United flying, and it's good to see. 2 goals in 5 minutes made the difference for West Brom against Hull. Carlin Grant in the 12th minute and Josh Madger in the 17th. But there was a bit of a late revival for Hull. João Pedro, not that one, the other one, scored the goal for Hull. It was 2-1. And Burnley left it very, very late against Swansea. Jay Rodriguez with a 94th minute penalty winner. That's Burnley's first goal in sub time. Now that means that we have reached the end.
We need stoppage time. Sometime.
No, I don't know. No, I mean, because they've not scored for like 3 or 4 matches. That's what I
Oh,
mean.
you said sometime. I thought you said.
Yeah, you silly twat. Shut up. Anyway, that draws this episode of Without Having Kicked a Ball to an end. Thank you very much for watching. Do not forget to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe if you're new. That would help us out massively. We'd love for a little bit of interaction down in the comments. Start a conversation if you feel like it. My thanks to the man who I've had to sit with since how long have we been going for now? Well, don't think we started till about 8:45, but we've been talking since 8 o'clock, so we've been going for a good 3.5 hours. Sammy T, it's always a pleasure, mate.
Oh, a Sammy T. I hate that.
That's what you're saved as in my phone, you know.
Oh, God, get rid of it.
I know it's terrible.
Thank you, Shithouse. And thank you to everyone watching.
And also my thanks as well to the man who this time, because of illness, has been behind the camera, Mr. TubeMix. Thank you very much, and hope you're feeling better soon. Next week, it's international break, so if we do decide to do an episode, which I hope we do, it's Premier League and EFL State of Play week, which Sam wasn't here for last time, but I really enjoyed. We broke down the tables, talked about teams doing well, teams doing not so well. We also did a bit of Europe chat, which we might do, we might not, I don't know. So, without further ado, all it leaves me to say is thanks a lot, and don't forget to join us next week when we go through all of the big talking points and break down all of the leagues within the English football league system. And don't forget, that will be all without having kicked a ball. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.